Welcome back to Deions Dope Dishes, everyone. Welcome to the third episode. Welcome to the third episode. Today we're gonna get a little bit bakery. We're gonna be making some velvet cupcakes, red velvet cupcakes. So let's get to it. All right, guys, like I said, we'll be making red velvet cupcakes today. Now, this recipe is a recipe that's been in my family for as long as I can remember. This is courtesy of my mom's sister. Shout out TT. Anywho, this recipe is nuts. It's freaking delicious. People love this every single time I've made it. I've been hoard out for these cupcakes many times throughout my life. So let's get to it. First, we're gonna mix together the dry ingredients, and then we're gonna do the wet ingredients. So let's get started with the dry. All right, so we got our bowl here. I'm gonna start with the thing that we need the most of, which is flour. We're gonna need 2.5 cups of flour. Now, the recipe actually calls for cake flour. You don't necessarily have to use cake flour. I've only used cake flour when I've made this recipe like a handful of times. So when I do use just regular flour, it turns out perfectly fine. Now, leveling off flour is basically when, you take it out and it looks like this, but you want to make sure it's level, because now that we're baking, it's more of a specific thing. It's not like cooking where you can kind of finagle things. Baking has to be an exact. Exact is the word I was looking for before. Exact science. This is an exact science, so we gotta make sure everything is exact. I'm making a mess, but who cares? One. Please don't sue me, Sesame Street. For whoever owns them. All right, second cup. Blank. And I just pat it like that to help the flour come out. And this is my half cup here. All right. So, next thing we're gonna do is our sugar. Gonna need 1.5 cups of this. Now, you can also do this recipe as just a regular cake too, you just put it in layer tins and make a layered cake. But I'm doing cupcakes because that's what I usually do when I make this recipe, and I just find it to be more appealing. Sugar's a little easier to level. Second. I don't have a lot of sugar in here, so I'm just pouring this in. And if a few granulars of sugar fall in there, that's okay. All right, next we're gonna add a teaspoon of salt. I only could find 1/2 teaspoon in my house. I have no idea what happened to the full teaspoon, but we're gonna work around it. So, 2 of these. Over the sink and not over the the bowl like I just did. All right. Next is a teaspoon of unsweetened cocoa powder. Wonk. Wonk. Now, another misconception about red velvet cake is that it's basically just a red chocolate cake. Now, all red velvet cake recipes ain't the same, so some are more chocolatey than others. This recipe that I'm making isn't super chocolatey. That's the only chocolate that we're gonna be adding up in this junk. And I don't know if they put this here purposely so that you could level things off, but I'm gonna guess that they did. Good job, guys. Good job. Good looking out. See? 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 Wow. All right, something I like to do when I get my dry ingredients together is sift them together. So there is a such thing as a sifter. It's this big thing, you can put it in there and it's got a little thing on the side to sift the stuff. I don't have that, nor do I have a strainer big enough to put all the stuff through to put it in there. So you can just take a whisk and mix your dry ingredients together. So you just mix them up together like this until it's nice and incorporated. All right. So that's all she wrote for the dry ingredients. Now we're gonna get to the wet ones. All right, guys, so now we're gonna get ready to put in our wet ingredients. So this is my wet measuring cup. There are dry measuring tools, and then there are wet measuring tools. These are usually used for dry things, while these type of jounts are usually used for wet ingredients. So first I'm gonna put in 1.5 cups of vegetable oil. Now most cake ingredients call for butter, but this one calls for oil. But that's what makes it moist and delicious. 1.5 cups, right there. I'll go ahead and pour that in. All right, next we have a cup of buttermilk. It's actually the same buttermilk I used to make that chicken last week. If you don't have buttermilk, which honestly guys, 9 times out of 10 I don't, you actually can just use about a cup of regular milk and then like a tablespoon of vinegar and let it sit for like 5 minutes, and it's gonna do about the same thing that buttermilk does. Pour that in. All right, and then we just need a teaspoon of vinegar, which is going to activate the baking soda that is in our mixture. Once again, don't pour that over the bowl like I almost did. Then you are going to add a teaspoon of vanilla flavor. Now, there actually is a difference between vanilla flavoring and vanilla extract. I'm using vanilla extract because I just think it gives it a better flavor. This is something also that I don't feel afraid to pour over the bowl because a little extra vanilla never hurt nobody. But never put too much because it can be overpowering. Alrighty. And now, the star of the show, red food coloring. Wouldn't be red, there wasn't no red food coloring. Which apparently, when these cakes were first made, there was no red food coloring in them. It was just a chemical reaction between the cocoa that was being made at the time, the vinegar, and the baking soda, giving it a red hint. Hue, that was the word I was looking for, not hint, a red hint. What's it hinting at? Anyway, we're gonna pour this entire bottle in there. Don't let it splash up on you, because it's food coloring. It's basically just dye. And it'll mess up your clothes. All right. And that wasn't the last thing. This was the last thing. These 2 eggs right here. Now, a trick I've been told is to let your eggs get to room temperature. I don't really know what it does, but it's a trick, and that's what I heard. All right. All right, now that we have all our ingredients in the bowl, we're gonna get it nice and mixed up. Make sure my bowl is locked in position. Bring that MRFer down. And let's get it popping. Oh my God. Nice. Look at that red ass color. Alright, so I'm just gonna get this excess off of a little mixer majigger. And it's gonna be, or it should be, a somewhat thickish consistency. It shouldn't be too runny. It should kind of gloop off your spatula like that. So now I'm gonna transfer the batter into these so that they will be easier to pour into the cupcake cups. Okie dokie. Let's get it popping. Now this is, for me, the most annoying part of doing this because I have to fill up like 24 cups for these cupcakes, because if you follow this recipe, it should come out to like 22, 24 cupcakes. So let's get it started. All right guys, so before you start pouring, you gotta make sure you put all your little cupcake cups in there. All right guys, so you just want to take your batter and then pour it into the cups. Now you don't want to pour it to the top, because once it cooks it's going to rise and then it'll be all over the top of the pan and it's just going to look ugly. You're going to want to pour it like 3/4 of the way up. So here we go. All right guys, so we filled up all of our baking cups, and as you can see, it has made a nice 22. Like I said, it would be anywhere between 22 and 24. So we have two blank open spots in our cupcake tin. So what I've learned, trick that I learned, is that you can just fill those two empty jumps with some water so that the heat still evenly disperses throughout the tin. So fret not. All right, so now we're gonna put it at a preheated oven at 350 degrees. So we're gonna leave it in there for 20 to 25 minutes. All right, guys, it's been 20 minutes. Look at these beauties. Careful not to get that scalding hot water on you. Oh yeah. All right, guys, well, our cupcakes are cooling off. Now we're gonna make our icing. So all that is cream cheese, butter, and powdered sugar. So I'm gonna mix our cream cheese and butter together first. Now I'm doubling the recipe because we're making cupcakes and I'm gonna have enough icing to get icing on all the cupcakes. So we're gonna need 2 packages of cream cheese. Gonna make a really, really delicious cream cheese icing. And I think, me personally feel like it makes the cake. Because the cake itself isn't super duper sweet, but the icing is gonna be pretty sweet, and that mixed together is gonna make a nice, delicious cupcake. And I'm gonna put a stick of butter. Cream that together. Alright, I'm going to use my baking spatula to kind of scrape this off the sides a bit. And cream it again. All right. So from here, we're gonna add our vanilla extract, which is gonna be 2 teaspoons. I'm gonna eyeball this because it's vanilla and vanilla is delicious. All right. I will use 6 cups of confectioner's sugar. So I'm just going to mix it with the spatula at first so that I don't make a giant mess with the hand mixer. All right, and that's all she wrote for the icing. Let's give it a little taste. All right, guys, so we've given our cupcakes some time to cool off. They're cool to the touch, and they should definitely be room temperature or cooler before you try to put the icing on, or it's just gonna slide off that junk like it was never even there. So I have a piping bag. You definitely don't have to have a piping bag. I only have this from the last time that I made cupcakes, and it came in a pack of 3, and this is the last one I have. So I'm gonna put the icing in here. Oh, if you don't have a piping bag, but you still wanna like pipe the junk out there, you can just take like a freezer bag and then put your icing in there and then just cut the corner off of the freezer bag, and then you can use it that way. So put the icing in here. I'm just gonna flip this part over so I can have some space when I flip it back to put pressure on the icing. And then I'm just gonna take it, hold up now. myself a little more room there. So you're just gonna take it in, place it in there. All right, so you're just gonna take it, and I start from the edges and make my way to the middle. It ain't gonna be perfect, guys, but I just like to give it a nice little swirly swirl. And I personally don't like a crap ton of icing on my cupcakes, but you know, each to their own. All right. Alright guys, we have iced all of our cupcakes. Now all that's left is to put on the last little bit of zhuzh. And it's just crushed walnuts. So this is about half a cup of walnuts that I have on this plate here. And I'm just going to use a regular, degular, schmegular cup and crush them. Fabuloso. So, from here, super simple. Just take it, kind of fluff it back up after I've mushed it to oblivion. Now just take the tiniest little pinch and there we go. And I don't do it with all of them because some of the people in my house like it with nuts, some of the people don't. Alright guys, and that's all she wrote. Red velvet cupcakes, courtesy your boy. I hope it turned out just as good for you guys. Definitely tune in for the next episodes of Deions Dope Dishes. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you know when we post our next videos. All right, guys, peace out.